Problem when people break up, there can be an element of trying to incriminate, trying to make out the other person did this, did that, or didn't do this, or didn't do that. And in some cases that might be true, maybe in most cases that's true. But the thing that matters at the end is what you could have done to have been better, or what you could have done to prevent what actually happened. It's not, in a lot of ways, what legacy the other person left us with and what we learned from that and how it harmed us and all that other stuff. What matters is what we learned from that, how we have dealt with the effects of that, and what we are going to do to prevent that if we have another relationship. A lot of the times we could be the cause of the breakdown and don't want to admit that to ourselves. We could be the reason why. We could be the one that lost attraction. We could be the one that could not find a way of continuing with that person, and the other person may have not have done anything wrong. Yet in our ignorance of ourselves and our own cruelty towards others, we don't admit that we did anything wrong at all. And that's self-ignorance, that's not self-awareness. Did we cause the trouble for the other person? What did we do to try and prevent ourselves from sabotaging the relationship? I see a lot of relationships are lost because of our own self-sabotage. You know, I've cared about all the people I've been in relationships with. I've cared about, and for the breakups, a lot of it's been my fault. A lot of it's just been cold, hard decisions to go, no, I don't want to be with this person anymore. I don't want to stay on this journey with this person any longer. And that's come with harm and, well, psychological harm, I suppose, or at least heartbreak. But I made those decisions for one reason or another, and they may not have necessarily been right to that person, and vice versa. Right? And there's always two sides to the story, but what's important is you taking accountability, or myself taking accountability for what I've done and learning from that. The other person has to sort themselves out. Too often we try and force the other person to take accountability and responsibility for their mistakes. And what we do then is we set ourselves up as a judge and jury, and that's not for us to do. That's just not for us to do. We should not be the judge and the jury. But in our hurt and our pain, and in trying to find the answer and justify, even if we are treated wrong, it's not on us to be the judge and the jury, let alone the executioner. And it might sound like ramble, but I know this simple basic stuff helps people. Because the object is to come back to yourself, your real self, your true self. Not the self that you've tried to make up, not the self that you're trying to be through the mirror of somebody else's life. Your real self, your true self. The hard part about it is when we get enmeshed. And we lose our identity to a certain extent through the life of somebody else. A lot of people do this with their children. They lose an element of themselves in that child, and the next thing, everything's going, they're giving preferences and they're allowing evils and other things like that to be allowed in that child. And what they do, they begin to enable sin, they begin to enable dysfunction. And then it becomes generational. Well, I was allowed to do it. Why do you smoke? I can smoke. Why do you do this? I can do this. I've seen it, and some people just don't come out of it. I've watched lives cut short by following the footsteps of parents that were addicts. They're called dead parents because they're not producing anything that's life. They're keeping these people alive, which is part of the responsibility of being a parent, but they're allowing or allowing their children to form, domestically form and privately form in a way that's going to lead them to death. It's in the Bible, it says there's sin that leads to death. It's lifestyle. I mean, it's hard to stay straight. It's hard to stay on the straight and narrow. It's hard to make the effort to characteristically stay on point. I don't think we ever fully get there, but if you're awake and you're trying to, with all the different opinions and ways of life now, if you're not on your game, you're just going to be tossed to and fro like a ship in the sea, the Bible says. You don't have to be blindly devoted to the Bible. The Bible proves itself. That's it at the end of the day. The Bible proves itself. Simple as that. That's just how it is. And I guess in a lot of ways we have to prove ourselves. But to who? Well, first, to ourselves. You know, if you're ignorant of yourself, there's no point you trying to prove yourself to anybody else because you don't know who you are yourself. And I've watched this. I watched this in my stepfather. All he did was drink, go to work, and smoke. Drink, smoke, go to work, fall asleep. Drink, work, eat, smoke, fall asleep. Shit, eat, drink, smoke, fall asleep. And the fact of the matter is, I became repulsed to that. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to end up like that. He died at the age of 51. I'm nearly 60. Can you imagine what it was like for me coming up to 51 thinking, am I going to live? Am I going to die? I didn't live the way he lived, so I got through. Managed to get through, and so should you. You don't have to follow the way these people have lived. Find your own identity and be the best version of yourself and fight for that. It's your fight. It's a personal fight that comes from the inside. Be the best person that you can be from the inside, and you'll navigate your way through life in a way in which you never dreamed or thought you could.